Like every other big media franchise, once you expand enough, you start to reach out into other mediums. Skylanders was no exception, of course, because, when you get that big, you just slap your logo on stuff and hope little kids will buy it. And, I think it worked for Skylanders, because I have a few Skylanders books of my own. And I guarantee, if you were a Skylander fan back then, you have a few Skylanders books of your own. But were these Skylander books any good? Were they junk literature? Or are they so deep that they could give you an existential crisis? That's what we're here to find out today, ladies and gentlemen. So without further ado, let's take a look at a book. Before we get started, a few things to note. While the Skylander comics are all well and good, in this video we're specifically going to be talking about the more booky Skylanders books. Like actual books, not like comic books, because they're different words for a reason. As well, we're just going to be examining the Skylanders books I currently have from my collection. If you guys really like this video, I might have to order some new Skylanders books for a part 2. But as of now, we're just going to basically do a little review over my current library. And hopefully this video will inspire you to whip out your old Skylanders books, because I guarantee you, if you were a Skylanders fan back in the day, you're going to be packing these somewhere. You just got to dig real deep into the noggin. Anyway, without further ado, let's get right into the news. Starting off with the first book of the video, Skylanders Universe: The Complete Collection, which only features a complete collection of SSA through Trap Team. So, at any point after the release of Superchargers, this is just false advertising. Good job, Activision. But aside from that, it's actually just pretty bare bones and basic crap. It really just is a list of all the Skylanders. It's kind of cool. It has the origin story of them as well as a little personality overview. My favorite part, though, is most likely to and least likely to. For each Skylander, it has a goofy little thing about what they're most likely to do and what they're least likely to do. My personal favorite has to be the GOAT, Lightning Rod, and how he is most likely to get distracted with his own hunky image in the mirror. And as somebody who's 6 foot, 500 pounds with 0.0004% body fat index, I see where he's coming from. It also has a short sentence describing every single swap combination possible. And while these sentences are pretty bland, usually basic stuff that you would just expect, it is impressive that somebody sat there and wrote down a sentence for every single one of the swap combinations, which, most people wouldn't be doing all that. And for a little bit of practical use, at the end of the book there's actually a checklist of every single Skylander released up until that point, so you can keep track of your collection. And while obviously this wouldn't work for Superchargers and Imaginators, this still could be kind of useful for a small child back in the day that didn't know how to use Google Sheets. And also, there's a little segment where it says, if you have any unique or rare Skylanders, write them down here. And for some reason, I wrote down Legendary Deja Vu, because it said it was a Toys R Us exclusive, and that was going out of business, which for some reason made me think it was rare. Kind of funny. And just to end it off, I'll do one more most likely to or least likely to that stood out to me. Ghost Roaster. It said that he is least likely to decide to munch on a nice fresh salad. And I can say, man, I feel you, Ghost Roaster. I feel you. Anyway, though, so overall, Skylanders Universe: The Complete Collection, not too shabby. Would I recommend buying it in the modern day? Hell no, because it's literally just like a list of Skylanders. But if you already have it, it's kind of cool, I guess. It said it was $13 back in the day, so that would translate to about $60 in modern money, because inflation. So yeah, definitely would not recommend. Next up are the Skylanders official Eon guides, and I actually have 3 of these. Skylanders Giants, Swap Force, and Trap Team. But they're all pretty formulaic, so let's just get them all together. Starting off with the Giants, though, right off the bat, you can immediately tell there's a bit more work put into these than the collection one. There's just a lot of detail, and all of it is told to you as if Eon is saying it to you, like in a cutscene or something, which makes it kind of cool. But overall, it's just the basic stuff, introducing you to Skylands, giving you the bit of a story lowdown from what you see in the first cutscene, all that to start off with. And then it actually does start giving you some practical information. I see they've kept the most likely to say, least likely to say every time they introduce a new character, which, I mean, I guess if you like it, man, more power to you. But one thing that really surprised me was when they were talking about elements, they seem to be really alluding to the idea that more elements could appear in the future. Like, look at this. At present, we know of 8 distinct elements, although more may be discovered in the future. Who knows? Like, what? This is interesting because they must have had the idea of new elements planned since the Giants days, which I think is kind of crazy because it seemed a bit more like a spur of the moment type thing for Dark and Light, but I don't know, man, maybe they had a whole plan this entire time. Either way, though, as we go on, there's some more like legitimately useful information. Like, it gives you a list of all the legendary treasures and what level to find them in, as well as all the hats and which level to find them in. Like, that's genuinely pretty useful. It also talks about charms, accolades, all the basic type stuff. And then you get a bit of a segment similar to the complete collection book where it introduces each Skylander, except it actually has more, you know, useful information. It tells you about their upgrade paths, the pros and cons, gives you a little bit of their stats. And one thing I thought was cool, there's a little prompt that says, if you have this Skylander, place the sticker here, which, I mean, personally, I think it'd be a waste of a sticker just to put in a book, but hey, it's a cool idea, I must say. Then as we go on, it starts to introduce us to all the enemy types you'll encounter through the game. And like I said, this is just practical information here, you gotta love it. And, you know, to be fair, I'm really praising this, but, you know, it is officially a guide, so this is to be expected. I still think it's cool, though. It gives you a little bit of information about each enemy type you'll face across the entire game, which, once again, useful. And I must say, one thing though, on the final page of the enemies, there's this little PNG of this little guy right here. I don't know what this is. I don't think I've ever seen it before, but this is gonna give me nightmares. Like, what the hell type demonic crap is this, man? Jeez, that is gnarly. Gnarly Barkley. And then there's a little bit of page, you know, introducing us to Kaos and all that. Then we get into the actual individual pages for the levels, where it just gives you the level, the objectives, and then a little rundown of each area you visit, which, you know, like I said, practical information. I might legitimately use this when I'm going for my 100% run of Giants, but beyond that, the rest of the book is mostly just battle mode, all the other random crap you do in Giants. Overall, though, I must say, not too shabby. I had low expectations for this, and it surpassed them. And obviously, this is a used copy of mine. But if you get a new copy, it actually comes with a poster, a Skylanders Giants poster. And this is the case for all the Eon official guides. So that, I think, is also pretty darn cool. As we get into Swamp Force, the beginning is more or less the same. It's like, welcome to the Cloudbreak Islands, this is the Swamp Force, this is how the Swamp Force came to be, there's swappers, all that. And then as we get into it, you realize they removed the most likely to and the least likely twos. But, you know, it's fine because Flynn apparently loves the ladies. I'm not gonna lie, kind of relatable. Good job, Flynn. And as we get into the elements section, once again, you see all the energy in Skylands is separated into one of the 8 elements, although there may be many more waiting to be discovered. Wonder what that could be alluding to. It is interesting, though, that from Giants and Swamp Force, they already had the more elements idea floating around. But as we get into the explanations for all the collectibles, some honestly kind of interesting things happen. In this book, there's a lot of goofy little explanations for why some of the weird stuff goes on that happens in Skylanders. Some of them are actually pretty funny. Like, for example, the reason there's so much food just sitting on the ground all over Skylands is because, apparently, on the day the Core of Light blew up in Skylanders Spar's Adventure, Hugo left the fridge door open. That's the reasoning. And there's a lot more of these, and, you know, even though they're obviously kind of goofy, they're not meant to be taken too seriously. These little touches, I think, are what puts the extra bit of valuation in these books, you know? Makes them a little more enjoyable. Like another thing, apparently Eon, at first he doesn't want to tell you his Portal Master rank, and then he says that it's in the 5 or 6 billion range. That is Eon's Portal Master rank, so like, bro plays the games more than Ruby. He literally just sat there like all day, like, holy crap, bro, go touch some grass. Anyway, moving on. But, you know, then the usual comes up again. We get the list of all the legendary treasures and where to find them, as well as the hats. We get a little rundown of Woodborough. And, you know, honestly, some pretty cool art is here that I'm not sure is present anywhere else on the internet. So, some of this art is pretty cool, I'm not gonna lie. But then we get into all the Skylanders, where it's the same thing, pretty much just giving you a rundown of their abilities, a little bit about the Skylander. Just, you know, once again, useful stuff. It would be good if you didn't have a full collection and you were trying to see which Skylanders to get. Overall, you know, just the helpful stuff. And then we get into the same old shindig as last time, where it's like, okay, so this is Chaos. Chaos is bad. You know, all that. And after that, similarly to the Giants one, it just starts going down and introducing all the levels with a little bit of a brief guide on how to 100% them and all that. And then it's just an explanation of all the random other things, and you're done. Once again, another nicely handled guide, I'd say. One thing that is interesting, though, there's definitely a very clear difference in the Vicarious Visions writing philosophy compared to the Toys for Bob writing philosophy for these things. It seems like Vicarious Visions was open to have a bit more fun than Toys for Bob. Toys for Bob was a bit more to the point, we'll say. You know, neither are bad, but I did like the little tidbits of goofy fun facts that Swap Force gave. As we get into the final of these Portal Master guidebooks that I have, obviously, Skylanders Trap Team, one thing I immediately noticed is there seems to be, at least in my perspective, an uptick in graphic design quality of these books. I'm not saying the first two were necessarily bad, but this one definitely, it's a bit more refined, it's a bit more polished. But, you know, other than that, it's the same stuff. It's basically the same exposition that was given to you in the opening cutscene of Trap Team, but over, like, a bunch of paragraphs. It's like, greetings, welcome to Skyland, the Doom Raiders are bad, so are the Trap Team are the good guys, all that stuff. But then as we get into it, there's one thing that I noticed. In all three of the books so far, there's been references to a guy named Ankh Beekman. He was alluded to in the Swap Force one as owning all the story scrolls, and I was like, interesting. So I googled this guy, and apparently it's actually a writer's alias for a real person named Cavan Scott. And this guy is an author, and apparently he worked on the BBC Doctor Who show, so that's kind of funny. He also wrote the Skylanders Mask of Power book series. And apparently the in-game, in-universe Skylanders character for him actually is the uncle of Kingpin. So that's your fun fact of the day. This is some pretty obscure stuff, I think. Anyhow, as we get back into the actual book, finally the lead up from the Swap Force and Giants elements pages is paid off as the light and dark elements finally exist. Crazy stuff. And, you know, there's the talk about how only the Trap Masters can unlock the elemental gates because, you know, Trap Team scummy, all that stuff. As we move on, it's pretty much the same stuff as the previous books. It's telling you about all the collectibles. Then you just have the list of, like, what level the hats are on, how to find them, trinkets, you know, it's just all the stuff. Skystone Smash, the Academy. It's basically just introducing you to all the principles. There is some actually cool graphical stuff here where it literally shows you all the areas of the Academy. I think this is a pretty cool page. But other than that, then you just get your Skylanders introduction where it shows you all their movesets. Same old as the other books. And yeah. And just to further prove that the minis are not full Skylanders, even though you can play with them. Each of the minis don't even get their full page. All of them have to share 2 pages. So screw the minis, they suck, and all that. Then we go on to the next chapter where we get to meet all the Doom Raiders, where each one of them gets their own little biography, which I think is pretty cool. You get to see what trap they are, where to find them. And then you get to see all of the other, like, not Doom Raider trappable villains. Get to introduce yourself to them, get a little bit of information. Stupid Brawlers, I hate you. And then with that being settled, just like the other 3 books, you go on to the levels, where you get to, like, see all the levels, all the areas in the levels, and all that riffraff. And with that, there's not much left notable in this book. You know, then there's the chapter about the post-game content, but other than that, pretty much wrapped up. Actually, in this book, it's interesting. There's a teeny little page at the end that talks about achievements. Obviously, this is console dependent. If you're on Nintendo, you're not going to get the achievements, but I think it's cool that they included it, and, you know, a little bit more insight on how to get them. But with that, yeah, we're done with all of the Skylander Eon official guides that I own. Do I recommend a purchase? Obviously, it depends on the player. I think it really also depends on how much you're getting them for. I don't know if they're still going for retail price, but a brand new copy would include a sweet little poster with it too, which I think makes it a little more valuable. Overall, it would be kind of cool if you're like a kid reading this to like help you get a grasp. It adds to the experience of the games. But overall though, if you're a seasoned Skylanders player, unless it's a good deal, I probably wouldn't pick any of these up. Before we get into the last official Skylander book of the video, though, I just want to take a quick pit stop to talk about this BradyGames Swap Force guide I have. Once again, like I said, this is not official, but it still could be a little interesting to talk about. And obviously, being a guide of the same game, there are a lot of parallels between this one and the Eon's Portal Master Guide to Swap Force. Like, they both show the Skylanders and all their upgrade paths, how to use them. Once again, useful information. Sound like a broken record saying that all the time, but you know, it's true. But this one, at least when it comes to guiding you through the levels themselves, is so much more in-depth. It has the entire map of each level laid out, and it goes through each area one by one with multiple paragraphs on everything that you'll find there. So if you really want to get the most bang for your buck in terms of preparation, then you should go with this one. This one is very, very in-depth. Obviously, due to being third party, it's lacking a bit more in the story and I guess personality department than the Eon's official guide, but yeah, it is thorough. Very, very thorough. And apparently it also came with a poster, but I don't remember because it's been like decades. I guess game guidebooks just always came with posters back in the day, so it's kind of sick. Last but not least for this video, we have the Skylanders Universe Book of Chaos. As you can see, my copy isn't exactly in peak condition, but I think it can survive a few more reads. This is actually a little weird spin-off of the Skylanders Elements books, because before this, in Skylanders Universe, there'd be Skylanders Life and Undead book. It'd be two of the opposite elements in one book. And this one is for the Chaos element, I guess? I'm not really sure. Either way, it covers all things villain-related in Skylanders. Obviously, Chaos, the Doom Raiders, pretty much everything. And, you know, I thought I was just going to skim through this book to give a summary for the video, but once I started reading, I actually kind of got into the vibe, man. Like, I sat down, and before you know it, an hour passed by. It was the most fun I had reading something since, like, first grade, but that's not a very high bar, of course. Either way, though, getting into it, it's pretty much just supposed to be Kaos' manifesto, where he explains all the villains in Skylands as well as how to be an evildoer yourself. He goes over Cloudcracker Prison, all the Doom Raiders, trappable villains, and then you get a few interesting tidbits from Chaos' own noggin. Like, he was actually correcting supposed pages from the Skylanders training manual, and some of the shit's actually kind of funny. Like, he just gets sad at the end. It's kind of funny stuff. Also in here is his love letter to Roller Brawl, which let's take a read out of this one. When he's talking about good things about him, he says, "I love animals. Seriously, I'll eat any of them, sometimes even whole." Chat, is this Riz? Overall, though, this book has a lot more interesting reads and a lot more personality to it than previous books that I have. Obviously, the others were intended to be guides, so they aim to be more informative than entertaining. So this one might just have that by default. Either way, though, I think it's pretty fun. Also, like, some of this stuff just gets kind of sad. We get to see a bit of Chaos' mom's diary, and he talks about she just being, it's kind of cruel. She forgets about Chaos, leaves him alone. And there's one thing where Chaos finally came home, and she said, "This is a different house, go away." It's kind of messed up, bro. It's kind of messed up. But my favorite part of this book was definitely at the end of it, the final sequence that's like a solid 1/3 of the book, where it goes over pretty much every single regular enemy type you can find in the entire franchise in detail. And I get a lot of names for Skylanders enemies I didn't know about. But, you know, see, it starts with a broader topic: Spellpunks, Cyclops, Trolls. And you guys know the Eyeball Dragon from The Lair of the Golden Queen? We finally get a name for him. Cyclops Dragon. Part skeleton, part Cyclops, part dragon. All very dangerous. Now we don't have to call him Eyeball Dragon anymore, even though, you know, I probably still will, but just saying. But yeah, I thought this section was fun. It just shows basically every enemy, a little bit about them. It gives you a name for some of like the base enemies. Just cool stuff. Overall though, this book, I'd say, for the $7 price tag it was originally purchased at, if that's what it's going for now, I think this is definitely worth it. A good read. A good read indeed. Informative, it gives you a little insight into Chaos as a character. Some stuff in here is genuinely kind of funny. I mean, juvenile humor still, but pretty funny, I'm not gonna lie. Overall, though, this is a great way to end off this video, and a pretty good book all around. With that, I'd say Skylanders is kind of decent at books. It's not like any of these were masterpieces of literature, and some of them were kind of so-so, specifically the Book of Collections, a bit of a rip-off if you ask me. But some of these, specifically the Book of Chaos, were actually pretty enjoyable. So I must say, Skylanders seems like a bit of a mixed bag when it comes to books. Overall, though, buy them at your own risk because, yeah, they might be good, they might be bad. Other than the ones I've specifically mentioned, I have no clue. Like I said, if you guys really just loved the crap out of this video, then I might do a part 2, order some books, but other than that, thank you for watching. Consider joining my Discord server to join the Cool Kids Club, and maybe subscribe. Winky face.